The standard textbook diagram of the basic legislative process presented in the second section is accurate, as far as it goes. But to get a truer sense of how a bill really becomes law, you need to probe deeper. The actual process is far more dynamic, complex, and challenging. The standard diagram can't possibly convey the obstacles, the strategies, the hard work, the defeats and victories, and the sheer excitement that attend the legislative process. After a bill is introduced, the member of Congress does not simply watch it move nicely through the legislative process. One of the most difficult stages is getting the bill through committee, where hundreds of other bills may be pending. The most time-consuming aspect of moving legislation is conversation. The scores of one-on-one talks an astute legislator will hold with colleagues, especially committee and party leaders, to make the case for a particular bill, as well as to learn what arguments opponents will use to block it, and to get a sense of what adjustments and compromises might be needed to move it along. Rather than expect collegial acceptance of his ideas, a member must be prepared to debate every line of a bill with his colleagues. Certainly a formidable process, but one that usually improves the final product. A successful legislator constantly counts votes to ensure he has enough support, and must be savvy enough to determine whether he can mollify opponents or must simply push ahead and hope to defeat them. Legislators today also give significant attention to developing broader public support for the bill. That includes gaining media attention, working with interest groups that can help with grassroots lobbying, and drawing it to the attention of influential Washington insiders who could talk up its merits. A legislator must also be alert to current events, which might help the bill's prospects, and be prepared to move quickly should favorable circumstances arise. The same kinds of steps are repeated at subsequent stages. If the bill goes to the House or Senate floor, to House-Senate conference, or back to the floor for final approval, at each stage there is a similar process of presenting your strongest arguments, listening carefully to the comments of colleagues, negotiating and trying to accommodate other points of view, working with outside groups to broaden support, keeping careful vote counts, and then pressing ahead for approval. Majority support needs to be obtained at each of several key points in the process to keep a bill moving forward. It is thus much easier for opponents to defeat a proposal than it is for sponsors to guide it to final passage. The standard diagram suggests a clear order to the basic process, with one step following neatly after another. Yet the truth is there are ways to get around almost any step in the process, and that's increasingly done for priority or controversial bills. Thus, instead of going through the careful committee review stage, a particular measure might go through several alternative procedures, including being brought up on the floor as an amendment to another bill, taken by the leadership directly to the floor, developed by a special task force, sent to the floor through a petition discharging the committee of its role, added by the leadership to a bill already approved by committee, included in an omnibus bill packaging together hundreds of provisions, tacked on to a must-pass funding bill, or inserted as a new provision in the final House-Senate compromise. Sounds confusing, and it is. But the basic point is that most of the major bills passed by Congress no longer go through the main stages in the traditional legislative process, instead going through what's called unconventional or unorthodox lawmaking. Circumventing key steps in the process can facilitate lawmaking, but the downside is a loss of transparency, accountability, and deliberation.